So identifying the challenges, which you just did, is one thing. But what do we do with them? How can we help students deal with these challenges? Let's take, for example, the teacher who is struggling to motivate students who just really aren't into taking school seriously enough. What would you say to them? Where do you start?
We have to be careful about being too heavy-handed. When I would never call a child lazy. I mean, that's the word that the Bible uses. Actually, the word that the Bible uses repeatedly in the book of Proverbs is the sluggard. And children are young, and if you're too heavy-handed, you can really damage them emotionally, and it becomes difficult for them. The correction isn't really a correction; it's a crushing of their spirit. So we have to be careful. But laziness is laziness. And I think one thing that we can do is make use of the creation mandate. And I want to go back to something that I said a few minutes ago, but lean into it a little bit more. We declare the glory of God by being made in his own image and by living out the commands of the creation mandate. And the creation mandate is a call to work. And we tend to think that we declare God's glory through our worship. We tend to think that we declare God's glory through our prayers and our hymns on Sunday morning, and we do, but we also declare the glory of God through our work, by skillfully engaging with our tasks day after day so that we overcome challenges and we bring order to what would otherwise be characterized by wildness or chaos. That's the way of describing dominion from Genesis 1:28. We are declaring the glory of God by representing him in our work. And that really is where one of the ways in which I want to motivate a child who's struggling to take school seriously. I mean, the glory of God is at stake. And God glorifies himself in every corner of his universe, but he's seen fit to glorify himself primarily in the human race and primarily in how the human race works. We do declare God's glory on Sunday morning through public worship, but it's primarily through our work that we declare his glory, because God is the one who in creation had the idea to make every week, the rhythms of every week, 6 parts work, 1 part set aside for rest, reflection, and public worship. And so to get students to understand that their work really matters, it's the glory of God that's at stake, I think that's very motivating. Another thing, and this is what the book of Proverbs tends to emphasize, and that is that our fortunes in life are determined, not exclusively, but largely in terms of how seriously we take the creation mandate. The sluggard lives a life that's very miserable, and his life is very miserable not because he's just unfortunate or is in the wrong place at the wrong time. His life is miserable because he's living contrary to the rules of creation. He's living contrary to the way God made his world to work. And you show me a kid who has no patience to learn anything about, say, math, right down to the basics of arithmetic, and I will show you a young person who's preparing himself for being dominated in his own generation. The dominion work is going to happen one way or the other. Either the child is going to exercise good and wise dominion in his own situation in life, or someone or something is going to exercise dominion over him. And though hard work can be at times unpleasant, it's nothing compared to the unpleasantness of living with the consequences of your own laziness, living with the consequences of not taking seriously Genesis 1:28. And talking that way with students, choosing class verses or a verse for a particular segment of the school year drawn from the book of Proverbs is something that we ought to do and not be afraid to do. And then another thing that I'll say that's a practical application here would be as teachers, we need to be wise and discerning about the emphasis that's often placed on enjoyed learning and enjoyment in learning. I think that learning is very enjoyable, all right? I wouldn't have been in school for what seems like a million years to get various degrees if I didn't feel that way. And I'm sure you feel that way too, Jenny.
Right.
Learning is enjoyable, and it is
Most of the time.
very, very rewarding. But I don't know that I would call learning fun.
I'm not sure if it's
Um,
supposed to be all the time. You
yeah, I
think?
mean, it's because it's work.
Yeah,
And now, we often talk as educators about the importance of engagement, that you've got to engage
right.
students in the learning. And I certainly think that's true. If students aren't engaged in the learning, they're not going to
Sure.
learn.
Mhm.
But there's a difference between engaging the students and making sure that the students are always constantly having fun.
Yeah, always
Um,
entertained.
there's We want the students to be engaged, but we should not feel any pang of conscience if the students are involved in productive struggle, if their brain is sweating, if um, they're kind of groping around because they're not sure what the right answer is and they're struggling to get to the right answer. That doesn't mean that we're failing as teachers. That may
Right.
mean that we're running the classroom in a way that's just right. And it's so important because in the real world, when you're an adult working, um, it's often not fun. It's arduous. It's difficult, especially in a fallen world. And if we want the learning always to be fun and always to be enjoyable, we're not shaping students for the real world. And if we're not shaping students for the real world as teachers, what are we doing?
Brought to you by BJU Press.